Once you've logged into Scratch, your username will be up here, as we showed you in the previous lesson, and this is your Scratch environment. Very simple. Welcome to Scratch. There's a couple of starter things you could do, some news, featured projects. Quite interesting to look at featured projects because you can see what others have done. Sometimes they can be a little bit overwhelming, so maybe don't worry about that, featured studios, etc. But what we want to do is really get going. The best way to learn is to start doing. And all you got to do is click Create. Right, so now we're in the Scratch environment. This is where it all happens. Up the top here, you've got a name for your program. You can leave that at the moment. This is where all the action happens. So when your program runs, this is where you're going to see everything taking place. If you wish, you can click up here and it will make it a bit bigger for you so you can see it in big screen. But at the moment, we want to be able to see everything else at the same time, so leave it like that. This little fellow, this little cat on the screen is called a sprite. And the bottom area is where you show all the sprites that you're going to be using in your programs. Your sprites are your little objects, whether they're animals or objects that you're going to be interacting with. And we will look at that later, but this is where your sprites are. You can add new sprites, edit sprites, etc. So simple so far. The action area, the sprite area. Down the middle here, this is really the code or the code blocks. And these are the blocks that we're going to basically put together like you're building a house. And this is how we start to learn programming. Now, they've been nicely organized into various categories. So you can see at the moment, we're looking at motion. So these are all blocks to do with moving our sprite. Move 10 steps, turn around, etc. If we go to the next one, this is to do with looks. It's just things to do with how our sprite appears, whether our sprite's going to say something, whether we're going to change the sprite's costume. We'll look at that later, etc. There is a whole section on sounds, so you can play drum sounds, change the volume, all sorts of things. So these have all been arranged to make them logically connect together. So we're going to go through some of these as we develop our programs. The next part up here is the sprite's costume. We won't deal with that at the moment. We'll look at that later. But you can also apply costumes to your sprites, and also you can have preset sound effects for your sprite. So it's all here. It's just a matter of understanding how it works, and that's what we're going to be doing. And then the last section is the right-hand part here. This is where we put these blocks and essentially build our program. So our program will all be built here, and when we're ready, we will hit the run button and we will see the result here. So that's execute the program, make it run, stop the program. So to recap, here's where it all happens. These are the sprites that we're going to be working with. We can have one or more. These are the code blocks that we can choose from. This is where we build our program, and we then hit run, and we can watch it happening. So that's a brief overview of what we can see here on the screen. And in our next lesson, Joshua is going to show us our first program. So get ready to build your first program.